don't think I need the mic, right? You guys hear me? Good? Okay. I'll just be like I'm in school. I talk louder than the kids do. Thank you very much for having me. It's been wonderful listening to everybody this morning. I flew out from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and it was like quite a journey to Toronto to here with an 8-hour layover in Toronto. So I made it though. I was diagnosed when I was 2.5 with epilepsy. My brother woke my parents up one night and said, Anne's making all these like weird noises and she's banging around in the bunk bed. So they went to see what was going on, and I was having a convulsion, as they used to say it back, I guess, in the 70s. And so my parents rushed me to the hospital in Toronto, and they said, you know, let's see if she has another seizure before we diagnose with anything. I had about 5 of them within 48 hours. So it was like, oh, I don't remember it, but when I was 4, one of my seizures was so bad that my entire right side was paralyzed. And back then, so it would have been like 1974, they said, Anne will never walk properly. Anne will have speech problems, which I do not. I'll never be right-handed. And just they gave my parents a list of everything. Didn't really give them anything to do though, like how to work with me. And so my parents just kind of did physio with me all the time, and they took me for walks. They got me doing as much as I can. A year after I was paralyzed, it just kind of slowly went away, and they have no idea why. I do have arthritis in my right side, and I blame it on that, but I think it's just getting old. But it's crazy. I was put on phenobarb, and I was on that till I was about 10 years old, and I guess they use phenobarb at my vet clinic still to this day. My friends go, yeah, we use that on our horses, and I'm like, okay, great, you know, it's good to know. But it was interesting journey for me when I was younger. I had all the kids in our area, especially the boys, because I have an older brother who protected me. They're like, oh my God, Anne, don't climb the tree. Don't. And I'm like, you kidding me? I'm going higher than you guys. I would jump off the second balcony into the snow of the apartment. I did everything I was told not to, which I still do today. And I'm not going to change doing that because that is who I am. So we know that over 50 million people in the world have epilepsy. I think the number's even higher than that. And I know Canada's a lot smaller than the US, but 42 people a day in Canada learn that they have the disorder. I was really happy that they changed from disease to disorder a few years ago in Canada. I don't know if they did here in the States or not. I just don't like the word disease for epilepsy. Just kind of, I don't know why, it irks me. I don't know, shouldn't say that, but. So after mine started, being on the phenobarb, I need my cheat sheets too. Being on phenobarb till I was 10, my seizures stopped. And it was like, oh, this is crazy. So a couple years later, we moved out west, which I still call the Wild West, to Alberta from Ontario. And I went till I was 20 years old with no seizures. I'm on holidays, I'm on Vancouver Island with my mom, and I had a seizure in the car. And I'm like, holy crap, like I thought I was done. Like I did think I was finished. So my seizures were back, and it was like they were back in full force. I was having grand malls every couple days, and then I was having petite malls, which I still use the old terms. I know everyone gets mad nowadays. They go, no, those are like the 70s terms. Well, that's how I remember it, so I'm going to use them. But coming back, they tried me on so many meds, like Keppra, Tegretol, Topamax, phenobarb again, Vimpat, and the only ones that worked were the ones I didn't like, the Tegretol and Topamax, but they kind of helped me with the seizures, but they didn't really stop them. So I lost my driver's license, as you were saying, 6 months in the US. Is that what you have to be seizure-free?
It depends what part of the US you're in.
It does, so states are different.
Right.
Okay, Canada across the board, you have to be a year seizure-free to be able to drive again. Oh, I was so mad that I went 11.5 months.
Oh.
I won't use the words I used, but my car is sitting out there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So I was actually, when my seizures came back, I had just had my first car, my first apartment. I was on my own, doing awesome, and then I lost all that. So I had to park the car so I didn't see it, or my brother parked the car so I didn't see it. And I didn't drive once, not having my license. But some of the weirdest places that I had seizures in, and I still apologize to my dentist today, and it was over 20 years ago I had it, was at the dentist. He was doing a filling. I was all, had the plastic mask, everything, and I went into a grand mal in the chair. And I was like, oh my God, I hope he knows what to do. You know, obviously he did. But I was in grade 8 with my dentist, so he was awesome. And he goes, quit apologizing. It's, you know, I was never embarrassed though. If I was gonna have a seizure, I would just like look at you and say, I'm gonna have one. And whether I'm on the ground or standing here yapping like this, I was never embarrassed. I guess is a good word, never. I'd just say, you know what, I'm gonna have one. Probably the worst one other than the dentist was when I was boiling water on the stove and I fell right on the stove. Another one would have been when we were going up in the gondola, going in Jasper National Park in the Rockies, getting my hair cut. And you have to kind of let people know that you do have epilepsy when you're going to places that they don't know you, because you can really freak them out. Believe me, nowadays, when I go get my hair done and they feel like all the dents in my head, they're like, they want to say something, but they're too embarrassed. They're like, oh my God, what is that? And because I have dents everywhere. When I was visiting family in Liverpool, England, just before my surgery, there was a whole display on epilepsy in the early 1900s. And if you had seizures back then, you were put in the psych ward because you were possessed. And I'm reading this and I'm getting mad reading this. Like, my uncle's going, Anne, it's all good, it's all good. Or they call me Anne Marie over there. I feel like I'm in trouble when I get called Anne Marie. So if I used to get that as a kid. But I'm reading this and I'm like, people were treated horribly. They would shock you. They would lock you up because they thought you were possessed. And I was just like, I would not have lasted. I would have talked back. I would have done all that. But I am so glad that that changed. But it wasn't until one day I worked at a doctor's office where I live in Spruce Grove. And I sat down with my doctor and I said, you know what? I need a second opinion. The neurologist I was seeing, who was very high up there where I live, was very old school. It was meds. It was just meds, meds, meds. I was on 7 pills a day, and I said, no, I want to see if, you know, what a new neurologist. I said, I want a brand new one who's just come out of school. So he sent me to one, and he could not believe I was never tested for surgery. And I'm like, so can we do the testing? And he goes, absolutely. So I got in. I don't know what the wait time is other places around the world. I got in within 4 months to get tested. And he goes, Anne, you qualify. And I'm like, that's awesome. Can we do it today? Like, I wanted it done. I was so excited. He goes, no, we're going to wait. So that was August. And I had the surgery by December, which I think is pretty good. I was bumped once. So left selective amygdalohippocampectomy is what I had. And I never asked them what they were doing. I just thought it was cool that they were going to try and fix me. They gave me a 55% chance that I wasn't going to have seizures anymore. I had 6 grand mals 2 days before the surgery, and I have not had one since. That was 20 years, December. I was like, wow. Yeah. So they said I would be on meds the rest of my life. I said, no, I won't be. They said, you'll still have seizures. I said, no, I won't. And they said, so I'm really stubborn when it comes to that sort of stuff. So just backtracking a little bit, when I did have my seizures, I had my first 2 boys that are now going to be 29 and 25. And it made me so mad that 6 months into my first pregnancy, I was seeing a different doctor because mine was on holidays. And he goes, you know, being on Topamax and Tegretol, you know, your baby could be born with this, this, and this. And I'm like, why are you telling me that? It's 6 months pregnant. Like, I would have done it anyway. I would have still. My baby was fine. Matthew was really good. He was very protective because he saw seizures right from day one. He obviously doesn't remember, you know, the first 4 years of his life. But when he was 8, I had a grand mal in front of him in the kitchen. And does anyone know? Okay, I tried to order a Caesar at the bar here, and they didn't know what I was talking about. That's a drink we have in Canada, right? Clamato juice and vodka. Okay. Anyway, he calls 911 and he goes, my mom's having a seizure on the floor. And I'm mad. And obviously I was in a full-blown one. And they knew what he was talking about. He couldn't say seizure, but the paramedics thought it was pretty funny that my mom's having a Caesar at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I thank him for that all the time, but he was so calm. Every time I had a seizure, he was like, he made sure I was safe, that I wasn't hurting it myself, or, you know, he was really good. And then I had our second son, Cameron, who he's severe ADHD, ODD, just, I think he's called me 10 times today. And I'm like, okay, mom is on holidays right now. So, and he worried. As soon as he was like 4 and he understood what was happening, and he was like, oh my goodness, like, okay, what is she doing? Why is she like shaking? He thought I was having a heart attack all the time. That was his way of dealing with it. But so I actually, after my second, they said, Anne, don't have more kids. They said, your seizures are all over the place. So I had my tubes tied, which I did not want to do because I wanted 3 kids. But after having my surgery and being seizure-free for a couple of years, I said, you know what, screw this, I am having another baby. So I had my tubes reversed. They said, okay, well, you're getting up there in age, so that worked too. So every surgery I've had has like worked, so knock on wood. But what I started after my surgery was I started a support group on Facebook because I had never talked to people before that had gone through the same experiences, and I wanted to meet other people around the world and see how they were dealing with things. About 4 months after my surgery, though, I fell into a depression that I would not wish upon anyone. It was, I tried to commit suicide 5 times, and family just wanted to brush it away, right? Your closest friends, they walked away. Instead of getting me the help that I needed, I was a volunteer for 12 years on our RCMP, our police in Canada, advisory board. And it was at one of our meetings that 2 of the ladies who work for victim services, they go, Anne, can you stay after the meeting? We just want to ask, check something out. Because I did the minutes, and I thought, oh, I screwed up on the minutes. And they knew something was wrong with me. And if they didn't do that, I would not be here doing this talk today. So they got me the help that I needed. My best friend that I grew up with in Ontario, who's a nurse in Florida, she goes, get down here, you need a break. And I did, because I was not getting support at home. I had to still make dinners. My ex-husband was not most supportive. My oldest, when he was in grade 4, I had every mom in his class make me meals so that I didn't have to cook for like 2 months. I think that's the only time I cried over my whole surgery, was the community actually caring. Like, I didn't think anyone really was paying attention to it, but they were, and it was wonderful. So after my trip to Florida, starting my support group, I thought, you know what, I'm going to start writing things down. I kept diaries for 18 years, which I hope my parents never find, honestly. I don't even know, what some of the code words mean anymore in them, but yeah, just let's hope they don't find them. I started writing my first book, and it's If Walls Could Talk, and I didn't even tell anyone I was writing it. I didn't tell my husband I was writing a book, didn't tell my kids, my best friend. And how it all came to even writing a book was, I was sitting down and I'm like, I had a poem in my head. I wanted to write a poem, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to read it to you. This is how I started my book. So, if walls could talk. They see us from all angles, every step we take. Sleeping, talking, cleaning house, even times we ache. They catch us sneaking cookies or kissing in the dark. They help us hang our pictures and let us decorate them with art. We sometimes rough them up a bit, even color them real bright. Punch holes and add new windows to make an old room a new sight. If only they could tell us the things that they have seen. A wall could write 1,000,000 books. I wonder if they dream. So as you walk around your home and gaze at your walls, remember, if a wall could talk, the fun could end for all. So I kind of wrote that because I would just sit in my room staring at the walls. I would lay in the bathtub for 2 hours with the water freezing, just staring at the walls. So I wrote that, and then I thought, you know what? I'm going to just put everything I'm feeling in here. Oh my God, my dad read it. did I get in trouble? Which is not what I was expecting. He goes, please don't let your mom read that. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because I talk about the depression, the suicide. But you know what? That was me. That was part of my everything. And I think that, why can't I share it? Like, that's my support group on Facebook. 50% of the conversations are about depression after brain surgery. And I honestly never believed it. But it was something that I was not told either. So I was like, whoa, like, why aren't you telling patients this? So the last conference I spoke at before all the COVID cancellations, was in Cape Town. And I had a doctor come up to me and say, that's not how it is. I'm like, well, you know what? This is kind of just my point of view of it. Because I was just talking about, I wish there was more support. And I wish family members would be brought in and said, hey, this is what she might go through. I forgot how to even, you could give me 10 words after my surgery, I would remember the last word you said. So I had to sit with a speech pathologist as well. And I didn't understand that. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I didn't get it. So I wish that people today would understand that, you know what, some people probably walk out of brain surgery fine. Some have to go through these obstacles like I did. So starting my support group though was amazing for me, because people had the exact same story, and I was like, oh, I'm not the only one. So I wrote my first book, If Walls Could Talk, Don't Let Epilepsy Control You. And then my second one, Let's Talk About Epilepsy. I had all these people on my support group saying, hey, you should put a book together, and with our stories. So I did. I had 6 of my friends, and from all over, everywhere in the world. And you know what? What it came down to is a lot of people did not have that home support, that they didn't have the friend support. They lost friends and family. And I just find that so sad. Like, I mean, I don't care what someone has. I will help them as much as I can. Like, it's just, that's who I am. When I was asked to be on the news in Edmonton, where I live, I don't know if anyone's a hockey fan, where the Edmonton Oilers play, gives people a perspective where it is. Anyway, they asked me to come on and talk about my story, and I was like, here's me thinking, really? Like, why? Why does anyone care? Like, it's epilepsy. But it's amazing how that first interview got me where I am today, because I'm like, you know what? I'm a people person. I want to tell people, like, they can do it. Like, it needs to be talked about. Just like, I have diabetes too, and I'll talk about that if you want me to. Like, I have ADHD, and which is kind of ironic that those are the kids I work with at school have ADHD. So when I'm having a really rough day and I don't want to sit still, I'm like, do you want to go for a walk? Like, let's go, So I get them out of the classroom, and they think it's funny. They go, how can teachers, like, I'm just an EA, I'm not a teacher, education assistant, but how can teachers have that too? And I share everything with the kids I work with, because they're pretty off the wall kids, and I love them for that. They're excited that I was coming to New York to speak, and they go, are you going to a hockey game? See, everything's hockey in Canada. So I'm like, no, my Toronto Maple Leafs aren't playing. So yeah, so I know that probably doesn't go over well too with people. The city that I live in, okay, don't laugh, it's really small. There's only 38,000 people, and it's just 5 minutes outside of Edmonton, Alberta. I've been on a lot of support committees and the police committees, and I was in 2021, the mayor called me and he goes, I want to let you know, we've just chose you to win the Significant Achievement Award for the City of Spruce Grove. And I'm like, for what? That's the first thing I said to him was, for what? And he goes, for your speaking, sharing your story. You've done it with the Rotary here. You've done it in the States. You've gone to Spain and Africa. And I'm like, yeah. That's what I like to do. So I was honored, and I was up there with NHL players that are from Spruce Grove. So I was like, yes, that's all I cared. That's all I cared. I did not care that they didn't put an E on my name. I was happy, because they always do that everywhere I go. So yeah, no E on my name. It's awesome. So winning that award was amazing. What else? Just listening to the speakers too this morning, like the whole imagination thing, like I've had an imagination that's got me in so much trouble in my lifetime, and it still will today. I was just mentioning too at lunchtime here that I told my fiance, I go, I can't believe they're asking me to speak. Aren't I too old to speak? I thought, don't they want, younger people these days? And he's like, yeah, you are young. I said, no. Like, so I was honored, absolutely honored to be invited here. I do speak at a lot of schools in Alberta where I live, and the kids are fantastic. I had a grade 1 boy goes, does your brain still hurt? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. I like to give them all the, like, did you knows, like how heavy your brain is. And I have a rubber one that I pass around to, and the kids, they all throw it and stuff. And they go, can you show us what a seizure looks like? And I'm like, I will not get off the phone if I do that. So one of the seizures that I did have when I worked at the doctor's office, I'm standing at the desk, and there's a patient like this far, and I'm like, and she knew what I was doing, so she came over and she stood with me, and I'm glad I didn't collapse. She goes, no, you just tapped that pen so loud, people thought you were mad at me. And I'm like, okay, but I didn't fall on the ground or anything. And it was after that I said, I went and sat with the doctor after I was, I was tired, but I was okay. And I said, send me to a new doctor. So I'm glad that I made the decision that I made, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here today. I want to just share, and this is not a XXX chapter in my book. It's just sex and seizures, and I don't know why all my friends flipped to that chapter first when my book came out, because it's not. My first real conference that I spoke at in Edmonton was a women's conference on epilepsy, on sex and seizures. Oh my goodness, what do you think? The very first question I was asked. Okay, I'm sitting on a panel with 2 neurologists, a nurse, a pharmacist, and me. So here's just me. And this lady stands up in the crowd, and she had to be, oh my goodness, I'm gonna say she was in her late 80s. And she goes, did you ever have a seizure during sex? I'm looking for my phone. I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Let me phone my husband and ask. And if I did, I was okay. And the questions were so boring after that. It was like, right. It was crazy. But I just want to show you guys a number here too. And just if anyone, okay, sorry, I didn't have my marker. 7,435. What does anyone take a guess what that is? One kid at school got it right. No, that's the first thing that the kids always say, is that's how many seizures I had.
It might be the number of seizures that people have in an hour.
No, but that would be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would. No, that's how many days I've been seizure free as of today.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, yes. So yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I'm just glad that I can share my story, and like I said, I've never been embarrassed about having it or talking about it. I think it's wonderful that I never changed, from the person I was when I was younger. I think I learned a lot about myself, especially, leaving my marriage after 25 years and being with someone who supports me now. Like, he goes, you're not going to New York by yourself. I said, no, one of my friends is meeting me in Toronto. So it's like, but I always travel by myself. I go everywhere by myself. I always did, even when I was having my seizures, when I had my oldest son, Matthew, I would take him for walks by myself. I would do everything. And yeah, I did have grand mal seizures, walking him on the sidewalk, but people were wonderful. And I just said thank you, and I'd apologize for like the whole time, because I felt bad. But you know what? I beat epilepsy. It didn't beat me, yes. And I'm just happy to be. The one absolutely worst part about going off the Tegretol and Topamax, I gained weight. And that is the first thing family noticed. Not that I was seizure free, but that I gained. They go, well, you look like you've put weight on. I'm like, really? So I don't care. You know what? I'm seizure free. and I'm going to stay that way. So
Amen.
thank you very much.
All right, thank
Any questions? We're good.
Just one real quick, with your young boys, did you teach them what to do? Or
Yes,
did they automatically-
I did. No, I taught them, and they were better than their dad because they didn't freak out. They were calm. They were really good. And my neighbors too, like everybody knew. So if he had to go over there to say my mom's having a seizure, not a Caesar, then yeah, it was good. But awesome. Well, thank you very much.
you. Thank you.